Found out of nowhere or out of nothing, this is not an ordinary phrase. Rather, it is a description that is completely identical to what we are going to talk about today. A book or manuscript is the strangest in the world, not because it is lost or hidden, it does exist, but it has a much greater secret. Trust me, my friends, I don't advise you to read it. Only one copy of this manuscript created the largest controversy in history and another mystery that scholars were unable to decipher from the books of this manuscript. When? Where? And why? And what does Satan have to do with it? Let's dive into the mysterious world of history, the Gegas Manuscript or the Devil's Book. My follower friends, this is not a myth or an illusion. By the grace of God, we do not spread myths. Rather, it is a confirmed fact with evidence and proofs. Friends of followers, our episode today is an episode in which we will discuss a book that is not like any book. A book that could be the only one of its kind that was written by a non-human creature, a book whose strangeness begins from the cover to the content and ends with the writer carrying a legend about who wrote it and the reason for writing it with strange drawings and ancient texts. In our episodes today about the Book of Satan, or as Gegas is known as his manuscript, before starting the episode, my friends, do not forget to subscribe to my official channel and activate the alarm bell. Suspension. The Devil's Book or Gegas Manuscript is a book according to medieval scholars, or rather, it is the largest book of the Middle Ages, and when I say the largest book, I mean this literally. The size of the book. This book weighs about 75 kilograms. According to the scholars, it needs 2 men to carry it. Its length is 91 centimeters, its width is 50.5 cm, and its thickness is about 23 centimeters. Can you imagine the size of the book? We complete the book with the description of the book. The outer cover of the book is 2 pieces of wood that are fastened with the papers by a carved wooden dowel. The strangest thing is that the papers of the book are made of animal skins. Yes, as you have heard, animal skins. Moreover, every 2 sheets of the book require skinning a complete animal. Therefore, according to analysts, to complete the book 310 pages, it required the skinning of approximately 150 animals, and scholars differed as to whether the skins used were donkeys or small calves. Why is this? What you will know during the episode. As for the book itself, it is more like an encyclopedia of some ancient sacred books and some information and practices that were used in the Middle Ages, in addition to some drawings, one of which is also the subject of controversy and ambiguity in the book. Now we come to the name of the book. The book has different names. It was called the Gegas Manuscript, which literally means in Latin, the big book. I think the reason is clear from the above. The other name, which he is famous for, is the Book of Satan or the Bible of Satan. The reason is because it is said that Satan wrote it. How will we get to this part later in the episode, but now let us go to history to know where this book came from and what was its fate. The age of the book, according to the analyses conducted on it, is estimated at 800 years, meaning that it dates back to the 13th century. It is clear to researchers and historians that the book was created by monks in one of the ancient monks in former Bohemia and is currently known in the Czech Republic. There is no specific date for writing the Book of Satan, as scholars have not found evidence. It is clear on the history of the book, but on the first page of the book the researchers found a note stating that the book was gifted by this monastic in 1295 to another monastic in Sidlc, Bohemia. The Roman Rudolph II, who was known for his obsession with occult matters, magic and other things, by asking the monks to lend him the book in order for him to read and return it to his free state. And 1648, that is, during the 30-Year War, and the book was one of the spoils that the Swedish army plundered from that war. The book arrived in Sweden and was placed in the royal palace in Sixlikeholm. However, a fire broke out in the palace in 1697 and reached the library, so the one responsible for the books was to throw this book with other fat books, and thus the book was saved from loss and destruction. One of the stories about the book is that when it was thrown from the window, one of those standing below it was seriously injured due to the abnormal size of the book. In 1878 the book became officially the property of the new Royal Library, which was then turned into the Swedish National Library, where the book still lives peacefully there in a light-lit room for fear of exposing it to any damage, and thus the book is actually real and available, and you can view it. Therefore, we must know what is the content of this book and what is the matter that marked the book with mystery and strangeness, and here is our next stop. According to historians, the book was written in the bestial age by a monk or animal monks, so the content must be really religious. Most of the content of the book is sacred texts, and the book was elegantly written in Latin. The Vulgata Gospel is a copy of the Bible from the 5th century AD. It is the official text accepted by the Catholic Church. The text of the book, in addition to the following texts, the Old Testament, Antiquities of the Jews, by the Greek historian from the 1st century AD, The War of the Jews by the same historian, an ancient encyclopedia entitled Ideology from the 6th century AD, The Events of Bohemia by the historian Koslas, a group of medical texts, also 2 books on physical medicine. And the Ancient World, a list of the names of monks in the first a monastery in which the book was settled, i.e. a monastery, is not like a calendar with the names of people who died in a specific time period. Another calendar with the names of monks and significant beasts with the dates of their honor. Historical record of the events of the local Hebrew, Greek and ancient Bohemian alphabet spells and magical curses whose meaning was not understood at all. Texts concerning the exorcisms of demons and jinn, which was popular in the Middle Ages, in addition to a number of prayers and hymns, which scholars likely belong to the ancient beastly monasteries. We must mention that the official sources confirmed that approximately 10 pages of the book had been torn, and the content of these pages you will know shortly. The matter did not stop at the religious and historical texts. The book also included many drawings that embody different animals, plants, and architectural engineering. The characters of Satanism and the dwellers of hell had a prominent presence in the book in addition to the various manifestations of heaven, but a specific drawing in the book was the source of the first controversy. A joint of Satan with a green face and a red split tongue. Add to it the 2 horns and long, sharp, curved nails on his hands and feet. The devil was wearing a royal robe to signify that he was the prince of darkness. He sat between 2 tall towers, terrifying, in the ancient books. The devil's drawing was natural, but the strange thing about this drawing is, except for its accuracy and occupying a whole page, which is reprehensible, but it is not understood the reason for the entry of Satan between religious texts, and stranger than this is the text that preceded the image of Satan. The text is a complete process of exorcising demonic spirits. In exchange for this page, completely a detailed drawing of a city paradise with high buildings and towers behind a wall in red, and before this drawing is a text that indicates a feeling of guilt and regret and a request for forgiveness, which led the commentators to say that the 2 images represent the contrast between guilt and repentance, the fate of the sinner and the fate of the believer. And this the matter posed a question. What prompted the writer of the book to draw such a thing and write these texts before answering? Let me tell you that the identity of the writer of the book itself bears a legend that was the reason, in addition to his drawing of the devil, to give the book the name of Satan's book. Get ready and listen carefully. This legend is our next stop. Between the pages of the book there is a single name, Herman Dickens, which means isolated or savage Herman. The occurrence of this name created another legend for the book. According to the legend, a monk broke monastic covenants and covenants with unforgiven sins. These sins did not know what they were, except that the arrival of expressions of remorse, shame, and guilt reinforce the spread of the legend. The important thing is to judge the monk. Death was crucified on the wall. It belongs to her. The agreement was to write a book that includes all the human knowledge that was reached at that time, all in one night. The monk was isolated in a hermitage. In order to start writing, but by the middle of the night, the monk had written nothing but pages that were counted on the fingers of his hand, and the monk realized that he was inevitably dead on the morning of the second day. So he did the forbidden. So he summoned the devil using ancient spells and made a deal with him, and the deal required the monk to sell his soul to the devil in exchange for the Prince of Darkness to complete his book. The book was finished that night, and the monk presented his strange book to the monks and got his freedom. So the legend stands here without knowing what happened to the monk. This is the myth, and with this, Satan is the one who wrote the book, so the book became Satan's book. This legend is accompanied by many strange beliefs, including that whoever obtains the book will be greatly prosperous, and the other belief is that the book carries bad luck for those who possess it. And the significance, according to those who believe, is what happened to Emperor Adolf II and the fire that broke out in the old royal library, which we mentioned earlier. But the book has been in the National Library since the 19th century and no damage occurred. If these beliefs cannot be taken into consideration, even the interpretations of this book did not deal with the issue of good and bad luck, but the strangest interpretations that dealt with the book confirmed in some way the content of the legend, according to a documentary prepared by National Geographic on this subject, and according to more than one analysis, the most prominent of which is for the researcher and the scientist in handwriting Michael Golick. It is really only one person who wrote the whole book accurately and without any error, and in the same way from the beginning of the book to its end without stopping and without any change in style, which is considered a strange thing. According to Michael, to complete the book by one person, the matter needs to work day and night without stopping, no, to eat or sleep or any other basic matter for 5 continuous years, and this matter is excluded, according to one of the studies. Calculating the hours of eating, sleeping and other things, the book in the way it was found or written in it needs at least 30 years to complete. Really suspicious. According to another study, although the calligraphy and method are the same, it was observed that there are different types of ink. Therefore, the writer can be more than one person, but the prevailing opinion is that one person wrote. So what prompted a monk to this long isolation to write such a book? And how was he alone able to skin these animals and prepare their skins for writing? The answer of the experts was that no one knows. Another matter. The torn papers have 2 opinions. We guess what these papers contained. The first opinion says that they are prayers, hymns, and teachings belonging to the old animal monastery, but the second opinion, which is strange, is the torn papers are Satan's prayer and invocations, and the monasteries that kept the book were torn apart to prevent the use of prayers. Satanism. The contradiction in this book between the sacred religious texts and the drawings of Satan and his agents made the book a source of controversy, especially that there is no known use of the book at all. He committed it, but the guilt, the writer, and the reason remained unknown, and the legend of Satan's book remained, and a mystery unanswered to this day. So my friends, this is what we had of Gegas Manuscript, or the Devil's Book. So we got acquainted with the huge book and its description, and we looked at its content, its strange drawings, and its strange papers, and we sailed through its history and legend. Who wrote the book? Is it conceivable that the book that exists in our present world is from the book of Satan in itself? Is it reasonable to write such a book, which was once considered the eighth world in one night, and if a monk wrote it, studies and analyses confirmed that the writer is one, so how could the monk write it alone, and why did he write it? What is the interpretation of the prominent devil's drawing in the book, and if the matter is true, what is the great sin committed by the writer? All these questions literally remain unanswered. The real one is behind him, for God alone knows, for God is higher and knows best.